if you remember going back to our very first conversation,
Right.
right, which we had over text, I wanted to ask you about what data you would be collecting from these things, from
Right.
these switches, right? So I wanted to revisit that conversation because I feel like energy consumption is like the one thing that has not been touched by uh, any sort of data mining as of yet, right? And while I was thinking about it, like a very interesting notion struck me, right? So imagine we watch all of these futuristic shows, right, where you have these holographic ads on windows, and you have them popping up everywhere. um, Imagine if I could track using some sort of technology where each person in the house is going, right? So for example, Ashutosh spends most of his time inside, let's say, this room, and this room we know that he has a laptop. Let's say if you have an elderly person in the house, they spend most of their time in front of the television, right? So essentially, you could hypothetically tailor make ads for each person and target only in that specific place, because now you can very granularly monitor where they go, right? So it's not just that I know where your phone is or I know which websites you visit. It's also that, hey, Ashutosh is spending most of his time in his room because his fan is always on, right? And that kind of got me thinking about the privacy aspect of it, not just with your product, but just in general. Like, is this the next step into data getting into our lives, or is it that in the end we won't care about privacy as much, right? Because I was watching this other podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast with Elon Musk, and he talks about how maybe eventually people just won't care about privacy, right? Because, like, if you think back and you think back into like the first phones or the first digital screens or touch screens, right? Everyone's talking about how we have stopped reading books, and we've stopped spending time in front of each other or whatever, right? But like, as a race, we have adapted to all of those things, right? Like, my phone and my iPad and my MacBook has become an extension to who I am, right? So it made me wonder if, one, we would really, is that like, how do you, as a founder of a company that has such intimate data to their consumers, right? How do you think about it? Like, what's your point of view? And two, do you even think going forward privacy would be such a big issue as it is now, right? Because it's literally everywhere in my life. I can go on the app store and I can see what data the apps are monitoring for me, right? I remember I downloaded this journaling app, and for them to not monitor my data, I had to pay for it. So it's like an opt-out policy. So yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that notion. Like, will privacy be as big a deal, let's say 10 years down the line, or will it be something that everyone will be more actively working towards?
Sure. Thanks. Again, very precisely targeted question on privacy. And I see that from our previous conversation, I got to understand that you're focused very much on the privacy and the data mining aspect of the products that are around us right now, and especially when they are trying to get into our homes, and most of already have like Amazon Alexa and Google Home, right? So the issues with these products in general is who you choose to buy from.
Okay.
That's one. See, if you actually buy a Google Home product, and if you're aware of how Google makes money, then it should come very naturally to you that the cost of the speaker is so low because they're going to make money off me. Now, while that is not wrong, because advertisement has been the way of selling you something for over hundreds and 200s of years, it's just that it has become a little nosy in our personal lives as well. Earlier, I used to read a newspaper in order to get advertisements or watch a TV. Now, even if I'm on my Gmail and trying to do some work, I still get ads from Google as an email ads, right? So in general, whoever you buy from, their model is pretty specific and you already know that. So if you still buy the product, you're putting yourself to it. Coming to your journaling app, right? the way that any developer would make money is either through ads or either through your purchases. Then so data becomes important in two cases. For example, how valuable the data is. So when I was doing my engineering, we were taught a concept called as, not concept as a theory called as that if there is a 10,000 rupees gold in a safe, you can't protect it with 50,000 rupees of security. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Privacy has always been a fundamental right to humans. For example, if I ask you a bank password, would you be willing to share whatever product that I put into your home?
Of course not. Yeah.
Right? So there are certain aspects of privacy which you would never let go. Like even if you ask Americans today, give me your social security number, they might slap you before giving you that. So, and in India, we are giving Aadhaar card like any other thing. So the bigger question is, do you actually understand how valuable your data is? The moment you do, you'll start realizing or start buying from companies who actually care about your data. Apple has been into privacy since they launched iPhone. So there was this D8 conference, I guess, in 2008 or 2010, where Steve Jobs was talking that our mobiles could track your location. And every time an app asks for the location, they have to ask it 100 times until the consumer is literally, frustrated. Why are you asking me so many times? So now you see, Google has adapted to that every time you go into an app, they ask your location. Earlier, I remember my phone's battery used to drain a lot because LG was tracking me. I think LG was tracking me most of the time because my location is always on. And LG used to track wherever I'm going. That is something I felt. But after these changes that have come, right, that I can restrict who can access to my location at what time, my batteries are doing very fine. I mean, it can't be just a coincidence that after the update this is happening. But again, this is my personal preference. So coming back to the data, there would be a certain type of data which you wouldn't care of, which you still don't care about. But there is a certain type of data that you would care about, given that you realize what its value is.
Okay.
So it's like the fundamental is, are you willing to share that data that you know what it's worth of? If you don't know, then you'll share everything. People share their OTP, man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because they don't understand what value it holds. So
as a consumer, we need to be more wary of what information we are sharing.
Two things on this part. The company should actually tell you. It is not the responsibility of consumers. How do you expect consumer to get educated on something? How can I ask my father to be educated on privacy laws in India?
Exactly.
If a company is ethical enough, it's their job. You have read a privacy statement. Have you actually read one?
That was my next question.
Right? Okay. So as a company, what we are doing is we are making exact lines bold which matter. We are not going to use your data. We are not going to sell it to third party. We are going to bold it. So when you skim through it, you know the exact points which you should be focusing on. And if we don't do that, and if we make it really small and really big, you should know what we are trying to do. Why can't there be a highlight page, like highlight of privacy statement? That's it.
But again, that is like a very conscious decision on a company's side.
Exactly.
Right. So you also mentioned that we need to trust the companies that are not like taking our data or using it in a bad way, right? Or would that be the right way to put it? No.
No, I would say, you know how a company works, what their business model is.
How do you know that? Like as a consumer, right? Me, I've never worked. This is my first Apple product, right? How do I know that Apple is not going to use my data? Like unless I'm going and reading that privacy statement line by line, right? How do I make that decision?
Great, actually very great. So there are multiple uses of data. The biggest one that is intruding our lives is through ads. Specifically targeted ads. Even worse than ads are those posts which make, so let's say that you're in India, that let's say you're a leftist or a rightist, then the algorithm or the people on the right side can actually promote specific posts that can aggravate you to do something that they want. This is actually a by far the worst implementation of ads. And on the other hand side, it's about the product. So if you use Head and Shoulders, I'll sell you Body Shop. If you are using Apple Watch, I'll sell you Fitbit, which is okay. So you have to understand whether a company has, so in case of Apple, right, they're not showing you any ads. They're not making money off your habits. Whereas Google and Facebook, they have, like you can go to on their web, on their Wikipedia, they'll know what is the primary business model. It is advertisement. Advertisement is very fruitful because of only one reason, because it is perpetual. It's like sucking blood out of somebody. If you suck it a little bit every day, it will get replenished and you can go on forever. He lives. So Apple may charge you 100 ml of blood in your money value, but they would not keep on sucking you. And this is a very drastic difference between how companies operate. See, Wikipedia and Signal, they operate on these fundings by other companies. Mozilla works with fundings as well as they're launching their other privacy related products. Like Mozilla has launched their first premium VPN, which you can buy, which keeps your identity secret, which is a great implementation. Mozilla doesn't show you ads. It might keep a homepage for a specific browser. So like how Apple also does it. If you go onto Safari, the default page is Google because Google pays them billions of dollars every year to do that. And that's okay because you can still change it. But Safari has the functionality to not let him track you. They have anti-trackers in general.
Okay.
So again, the consumer has to understand which company they are getting involved in, and the company has to make conscious effort to let them know what their business model is and how they are going to use their data, which you will see that most companies don't do. Because they want to be perpetual with you, like just keep this going on. So Google did not care about GDPR or data until European Union made it mandatory to do so.